$3 million is simply not enough to retire on. At least that's what they were told. This is the story of Dave and Kelly, real clients. When you're building a house, the first thing you need to start with is the foundation. You can have the most elaborate blueprint with craftsman design, marble floors throughout, and a view of the beach. But if you don't have a good foundation set first, the house is going to crumble down. So let me ask you this. Have you known people who you thought were quite wealthy having to go back to work later in life? I'll let you in on a little secret. It's not that they didn't have enough money. It's that they didn't have a clue about what they spent. It doesn't matter how much you've saved if you overspend. We use a system called Live, Give, Owe, Grow to determine how much you might actually be spending. With the hundreds of families we've helped, we found this is much more accurate than just asking you to add up your expenses. First, look at how much you give away each month. That could be to charitable organizations or family. Second, look at how much you pay in debt and taxes each month. Third, examine how much you're saving. That could be either in the form of 401k contributions, other investments, or even moving money into your savings account. Then anything that doesn't fall under those three categories, you're spending as living expenses. If you've heard finance people tell you that you need to budget and line item every expense, and the idea of budgeting just makes you want to pull your hair out, then this is the system for you. Now for Dave and Kelly, they have good working salaries, and we determined that they spend about $12,500 per month on living expenses, independent of their mortgage, taxes, giving, and savings. And the beautiful part of our Live, Give, Owe, Grow system is it uncovered that they were probably wasting a bit of their money simply because they didn't know where best to save and if it would make a difference. So we agreed to add some extra savings into their plan for 3 years. It would make a helpful difference, and where we save this money is really important. You'll need to hold on just a couple minutes and I'll tell you exactly where we begin saving when we get to that part about taxes because it makes a significant difference. And before I go on, I want to tell you about getting your free retirement readiness report. Click on the link in the description. It's easy. Enter how much you've saved, how much you'll need to live on, and we'll provide you a personalized video with feedback assessing your retirement readiness. It's a great, easy way to begin to answer that question if you're on the right track, so make sure to do that. Second variable, we're historically living longer than those in the past, and there's a high correlation between higher incomes and higher life expectancy. So there's a pretty high chance you're going to live longer than you think. Think about how much more expensive things are now than they were 20 or 30 years ago. Now, let me ask you this. How long do you think your retirement will last? 20 years? 30 years? How expensive will things be when you're 80 or 90? When we look at Dave and Kelly's expenses, you can see from this graph that the red line trend of expenses increasing over their lifetime. Inflation is the silent killer in retirement. I would also direct you to the dark blue bars, which is the estimated trajectory of Social Security. You'll notice it does not increase at the same pace. This is because studies show that over time, retirees will lose about 40% of their buying power from Social Security income. In this projection, we give Social Security a lower cost of living adjustment than the expected overall inflation rate. This is important because we want to plan as accurately as possible, and we would rather be a bit conservative in those estimates. If Social Security does keep up with inflation, you'll just be that much better off. Underestimating inflation is a big mistake retirees often make. At an average inflation rate, your costs will double about every 23 years. That means from age 65 to 88, your costs for bread, meat, travel, and so on will approximately double. For Dave and Kelly, this meant not over-withdrawing in their early years so their investments could help make up that cost gap that would develop over time. So super important that you look further down the road and not just at year one of retirement. Third variable. Now let me ask you this. What's likely to be your number one expense over your lifetime? Groceries, vacation, housing costs? All wrong. The problem is most people have no clue what their biggest expense will be in retirement and they completely ignore it. The good news is that there's typically a lot we can do to decrease this expense and dramatically increase the chances of long-term success. Dave and Kelly have a brokerage account and a small Roth IRA, which are more tax efficient for withdrawals, but they also have a heavy amount in traditional IRAs and pre-tax 401ks. All that will be fully taxable income when withdrawn. Remember earlier how I said we decided they could save a little bit more, but we needed to decide the best place to save? They were putting a good amount into 401ks, but not maximizing their contributions, especially with catch-up contributions. We wanted to minimize saving more pre-tax money that would just be taxed later. Let me show you why this is important. Let's say further down the line, you're pushing up against the next tax bracket. Maybe 24% federal, here in California, it's likely at least another 9% at the high side for state taxes. So essentially a third of your money currently is going towards income taxes. But let's say you need to buy a new car or put a new roof on the house, and so you need more income than the normal amount that you're taking. Well, the next tax bracket is 32% federal, plus you add on another state tax of 9%, and now it's over 40% total tax that you're paying. So our two recommendations for Dave and Kelly were, number one, don't change what you're contributing as far as pre-tax contribution, but let's increase those contributions to the max and do this extra amount as Roth contributions. These are after tax, but can be withdrawn tax-free as income later on. This will help boost that Roth tax-free pool of money and could give them greater tax flexibility in retirement. Second, we also discussed the idea of Roth conversions over a 3-year period of $50,000 each. That would help add to that tax-free pool in a much greater way and create that much more flexibility later on in retirement, especially if tax rates increase in the future. You can see the collective difference of addressing spending, inflation, and taxes. Dave and Kelly gained confidence on what they needed to do. They were on the path to retire when they wanted and didn't have to work as long by addressing these 3 simple yet powerful variables.